Want to support the show? How about becoming a Route 16 Grind Patreon today for as little as $1 a month? It's not just a contribution, but an investment that goes directly to the show. Help this podcast expand and grow. Check out our show notes for links to our Patreon page. This week on the Route 16 Grind, in the Outdoor Update, Chuck and I discussed the effort to fully and permanently fund the Land and Water Conservation Fund. From the field, Chuck and I will talk about scouting, what is it, and why do we do it. In our On Target segment, Instructor One from Ryker USA shares some details about pepper fog, spray, and gel. In the Rock, Mud, and Dirt, I will talk about attending a great event this past weekend for a great cause. In the Go Adventuring segment, we have an update from Sir William Goes. Then we wrap up the show with a cup of joe. Route 16 Grind, Episode 15. A little pepper in your life builds character.
The Route 16 Grind is sponsored by Sea State Coffee, Warren Industries, Tuffy Security Products, and Route 16 Off-Road. Welcome to the Route 16 Grind, the podcast for outdoor adventurers. Each week, we bring you information related to off-road and outdoor activities. If you wheel, hunt, fish, overland, or are an all-around adventurer, this podcast is for you. Each week, we pour a cup of Sea State coffee and talk about informative topics, the gear, and the training that can help you have a successful outdoor adventure. We have amazing contributors and some great conversation. So, grab your cup and enjoy the show. Here are your hosts, Brian and Chuck.
Welcome back to the Route 16 Grind. I'm one of your hosts, Brian, from Route 16 Off-Road, and we're here with Chuck. How you doing, Chuck?
Man, I'm doing good, brother. How was your week?
It was good. Very busy. It is very busy this week, too, but it's a good busy. You know the deal, man.
Yeah, no, it is. I wish I didn't have to work. Time would be a little bit easier to manage, and I'd get to do everything that I enjoy for free.
Hey, it's just 6 numbers away, right?
Yeah, tell me about it. I think about it every day. Six numbers or 35 years, however you want to slice it.
So we got a great show, man. We got a lot of stuff this show. We got a lot of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to venture to say that potentially the best one yet.
Heck yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We appreciate your posts and feedback. One of the best ways to help out the show is to post a 5-star review with your feedback on Stitcher and Apple Podcasts. This helps us grow the Route 16 Grind audience, and we also get a chance to hear from you. So if you love the show, please consider leaving us a 5-star rating on Stitcher and Apple Podcasts today.
The Outdoor Update is brought to you by Tuffy Security Products. Having your vehicle broken into is not a laughing matter. Trust Tuffy Security Products to stop opportunistic thieves. Tuffy is the industry leader in automotive security and provides peace of mind when you walk away from your rig. Durable and easy to install, Tuffy Security Products has adventure-ready consoles, drawers, and lockboxes available for you to organize your rig and secure your gear. Visit TuffyProducts.com and use special offer code GRIND to save 10% on your order. Remember to lock it up.
Welcome back to the Outdoor Update, the weekly segment where we provide you with stories, news, and information from the recent goings-ons in the outdoor world. So this week, the Outdoor Update is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to go over, something that happened last night pretty quickly, and then I kind of want to discuss it with Brian because it's pretty in-depth. There's a lot of layers of this onion. Last night, President Trump on social media, I saw it on Facebook, I'm assuming it was on his Twitter, put out the notice that he was calling on Congress to present a bill to fully fund the Land and Water Conservation Fund, which we've discussed previously. It's easily the biggest access program in America. The Land and Water Conservation Fund gets its money from offshore oil and other mineral royalties and whatnot. So essentially, people taking natural resource, they're paying back into the kitty to support parks, access, public lands. Is various projects. The most successful piece of conservation legislation that there is, it funds a ton of stuff. So he called for support, or called for a bill, and he called out a couple senators, Senator Daines, and forgive me, I can't remember the other one right off the top of my head, but these two gentlemen haven't really been huge advocates for the Land and Water Conservation Fund. I'm not going to say that they're based on my knowledge of them. I haven't dug into them too much between last night and today. They don't seem to be tremendous opponents of it necessarily. But when I read it, initially I was like, okay, this is cool. And that lasted for about 5 seconds. Well, then I kind of got agitated. And the more I thought about it, the more angry I got. And the reason I got angry was because although this is something that I've been talking about on this podcast, and I've been talking about for like the last year and a half with people, and I've been writing letters and trying to get people on board with this that are up on the Hill in Washington, it was something that it did something that I rally against quite frequently, and I talk about a lot, and that is a lot of issues are politicized and used as political weapons, and there's party lines drawn in them that I don't think it should be partisan issues. Conservation and environmental concerns is one of those. Some of the solutions may be partisan. I get it. But I don't think the issue itself should be partisan like a lot of conservation issues are, and it drives me crazy. Well, I started to view this as a wedge, and it was kind of aggravating to me. And I guess now at Brian and I can kind of discuss how this goes down and how it looks. I didn't want to talk to Brian about it before we started the show because I wanted to get his perspective and what he thinks about it. And now after he's kind of heard my feelings, so we'll get into discussing it. So realistically, Brian, what do you think? What was your initial reaction when I sent it to you and told you this is what we're going to talk about?
Well, I think you're right on target where it's kind of deceptive in one way. Obviously, I mean, everything's rolled into politics. So the two senators, Senator Cory Gardner of Colorado, and the other one is from Montana, Senator Steve Daines.
Yep.
And so those are the two that were mentioned, and necessarily are the president's tweet that we were referencing. And I think one of the things, so I did a lot of reading on it a little bit more, and I know one of the things, like the Cato Institute is probably one of the bigger ones where, they're all about liberty. Obviously, I'm probably as close to libertarian. I wouldn't say I'm fully libertarian, but I'm probably close to it as possibly could be. Some things I don't necessarily agree with, but it's pretty much they write about liberty. And this is one of those things that they look at as pretty much a Democrat program. And it's kind of scammy in the way that the government's looking to privatize, or not privatize, but looking to take over more ownership of more lands that should be privatized and such. So I think there's, depending on what side of the fence you sit on, is your perception of it. I think the biggest issue is there are not enough people involved in the discussion. There are people with their own political agendas and not, say, conservation and the thing about it too is I don't think the argument has anything to do with national parks and all those type of things. I think this has to do with federal grazing lands and, surplus land owned by Department of Defense, like all these other things. Right. We know the benefits, especially like you shared when I read up on it, I was like, oh my goodness, I never knew about this, about parks. So it's a way that, towns that maybe they can't build their own parks, they can go get a grant from this fund and they can build a park. They can build a baseball field, but it would be a public area. It wouldn't be a private area. It wouldn't just be for your town. But I think they're taking a topic and they're kind of rolling it in. And I think that's a problem with all the issues we discussed, Chuck, in today's climate. It's just deceptive. If we're talking about, medical care, if we're talking about, firearms, it could be whatever you want. And I think the people who are making the biggest noise don't even know what they're even making noise about. They're just, it's like just, a catchphrase to them. They really
Right.
don't know. And I don't think they really understand the impact of what they're looking at. So I would be curious to know how much, even our president knows about this.
And I've heard all the arguments. The government's the government's not allowed to own land, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that's just simply not true. It's the federal government is allowed to own land. The states that are so adamant about dissolving public lands and it's our land, da 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 da, they were offered land. Take as much as you want. Well, this is what we want, and that's what was taken. Okay, this is the agreement, and then you move forward from there. That's, to me, that's besides the point with this one, with the Land and Water Conservation Fund. Kind of what the kind of the spark that was getting me kind of worked up about it was the fact that I talked about a bill all last fall that was introduced that was essentially doing exactly what this right here was doing. Now, I've got a feeling the way this is playing out that this money is going to end up, it's going to go to access and it's going to go to public lands, and it'll probably, if this goes through and everything works out, it'll end up being fully funded. But it'll also be used as a source to supplement the budget cuts that were made to the National Park Service and the maintenance of some of our other public lands. And realistically, if it can get rid of the backlog, and if it's utilized to get rid of the backlog of the maintenance in parks, which is one of our greatest treasures, that's fantastic. It's at the end of the day, I want it to be fully funded. What drove me crazy was he has put out that he's demanding this bill, and then he's saying it will be historic for our beautiful public lands when I sign it into law. And so now this goes into effect, and I think it's utilized as a tool to make the Republican Party, and in full candor, I'm registered as an independent. I don't ride party lines. I don't make decisions based on party lines, and I typically do vote Republican. Just putting that out there. It's taken something so now you can stick a flag in the ground and be like, we did this. And realistically, I'm going to be super interested to see how it plays out. It couldn't have been at a better time. I listened to a podcast, BHA's Cast and Blast. They had the president of Pheasants Forever on there. He was talking about a conservation group that he had been working with, trying to help out. And they were explaining they were a new group. It was a group of women trying to get women in the outdoors. And they were explaining the situation to him where somebody tried to come along and buy their organization. And when they refused, they were told, well, we'll just do what you're doing, but we'll do it better and we will bury you. Well, the president and CEO of Pheasants Forever got kind of angry. And when he got angry about it, they were like, no, you need to calm down. Because if somebody else can do what we're doing, but do it better, cool, let them do it. Right. And essentially their message was like, the mission is bigger than the vessel that's accomplishing it. So if somebody else can do it, we don't care. So that kind of changed my perspective a little bit. And genuinely, it wasn't that I didn't want it to happen because Donald Trump was doing it. That's not the case at all. Like I said, that's not the case. It was the fact that it is, especially when you read the comments on the Facebook post, it is driving a wedge. And that's what got me. It was bringing the partisan BS into environmental issues. And that's where that's what got me so fuming over it. And the champion people that really haven't been champions for the Land and Water Conservation Fund is just one of those things. And just by coincidence, both these guys are up for re-election.
And I think for me, I'm with you, man. I don't vote really party lines. I literally am a guy that writes in about a lot more nowadays, to be honest with you. I don't look at what color is on the board. I look at and this is something I used to listen to a program called the Jason Stapleton program. He's a former recon Marine. Actually, he was one of my students years ago. But he said something that has always stayed with me. He says, "Is this moving us closer to liberty or further away?" Because you're not going to get your entire way. Like, you want everything to be all like this. Like, I want to be as free as possible, right?
Right.
Well, that's just not going to necessarily be the case. But how do we move closer? Is this moving us closer to that? And that's kind of how I look at a lot of these things. And yeah, you brought up a good point about with the land, the government not being able to own it and all that stuff that people bring up as noise. The founding fathers, they understood that, yes, the federal government's going to own land. But with that said, they should try to privatize that land as soon as possible if it's if it's not being utilized or whatever for its primary purpose of what it is. So if there's no longer a reason for the government to own it, they should release it. I think that's where the argument is. And like what you said, we're now the argument, like this whole wedge thing. Let's focus on what the argument really is versus my team wants to do this today. Because if you flip this, and the thing about it is some of the things that I read, because they were dated, they talked about this being a Democrat plan, right? But now you got it's just, again, the flavor of the day, and it's ridiculous.
Right. And the bill last fall was bipartisan. I mean, absolutely, it was introduced by a Democrat member of the House, but there was pretty much bipartisan representation on it. And then to spin it like this, and then it was obvious when you get on, like I said, when I got on the comments, it was just totally, like you mentioned a while ago, most people don't even have a clue what they're even commenting on and talking about. But they will stand by that when they're in an argument with somebody about how good this president is or how good this person is or how good that person did this. They'll say, well, they did this. But they don't know any of the background noise that went on. They don't know, like in this situation, just 6 months ago, there was a bill in the House going through committee that would do the exact same thing. And I will be willing to bet there's going to be some funky language in there about, like, there's going to probably be some dedicated appropriations and everything, which I'm not saying I'm opposed to. Which, I mean, I'll be cool with it depending on how it's laid out and where it's going. My huge gripe with it was, like, I can't say it enough. It's just the partisanness of it, and it doesn't work when we take 2 steps forward and take 2 steps back every time. I mean, shit. When there's a new Congress comes in, new party takes control. We spend half the first 2 years or first year, whatever, backtracking on what the last one did.
Oh, yeah, it's ridiculous. We wouldn't have our children act this way. Yeah, that's the reality of it, and that's the environment we live in right now. And I mean, what have we gotten accomplished? It's just not the way to do business. If back in the 80s, I don't know how true this is, and I've heard this reference before, but even if it isn't true, I like the concept of it. So, what I was told, and I'm not a big Reagan guy either, but I'm just going to use a story from his time period. But Ronald Reagan, obviously President, Tip O'Neill, Speaker of the House, Democrat. The way they would try and get things done is, I think Ronnie would invite Tip out to his ranch or maybe Camp David, wherever. And he literally would just pour a drink and figure it out.
Yes.
And I'm not saying you got to drink. What I'm getting at is you have a conversation.
Yes.
You don't sit there and look at name calling and you're not getting anywhere. And on top of it, who's getting punished is everyone with that, all the people in the country in the aspect of the citizens, all the programs, all the things that we're looking to do to enhance and to make our country better operationally. And then in the way that we represent ourselves as well.
Right.
It's very poor image. That's when I get in these conversations, I'll tell you, but we wouldn't have our children act this way. And I'll be honest with you, if you're a person, and you know what, if you don't want to follow the podcast anymore, that's fine. You're not going to hurt my feelings any. But if you're a person that votes strictly because someone puts blue or red on their sign, you're part of the problem. You're not making solutions. You are part of the problem.
people don't want to hear it. I've got family that will do that. You know, I don't discuss politics with people in terms of like what's your opinion? Here's my opinion, and let's go back and forth about it. I don't do that because I genuinely don't care. And it's an argument. I was raised, you don't talk about religion and politics around people. That's been lost somewhere. I know when I was a kid, like I remember talking to my grandparents, they didn't know who the other person voted for when the president rolled around. So it does spark controversy, but realistically, yeah, if you cannot vote beyond that red or blue, there is a serious problem. And I'm not saying voting all for one party is bad if they align with your values. But if you are willing to sacrifice something of yourself just because you have to be aligned with that, I got real issues with it.
Right.
You know, I really do. And it's like you said, it is part of the problem. And I don't mean that negatively and to piss people off, and I'm sure you didn't either. But you need to analyze what you're doing, and you either need to educate yourself or a little bit more, potentially swallow a little bit of pride. I definitely think there needs to be some introspective thought that goes into it. Like, why do I do this? Do I genuinely align with this stuff on, let's just say the majority. Okay, that's the easy way to do it. Do I agree with this person on the majority of the issues? Do they fall my way on the majority of things that are important to me? If that's the case, cool. But if they don't, or if you don't know, that's a problem.
Yeah, that's definitely a problem. And yeah, again, Chuck said it right. I'm not here to piss you off or make you upset. But, you know, one of the things I can tell you what I enjoy about these outdoor activities that I participate in, I've said it, I mentioned it before on this podcast. And one thing I talked about, you know, getting involved in the off-road stuff. I literally immerse myself sometimes with people. Politically, we do not see eye to eye, but that does not prevent us from communicating with each other, supporting each other, right, being friends, and all that. I mean, the communication is so important. Why would you not want to hear an opposing argument? Because I'll tell you what, that's what I love about what you brought to the show, Chuck, is you make me think. And that's what an opposing argument should make you do. It should be educated, delivered, and makes you think, and you should want to go research that. It's going to make you better, well-rounded, and, you know, maybe you are wrong, and you can admit that, but you're not tied to one brand or another. You're tied to what's right, and for me, that right is liberty. Like me living the as free as I possibly can live. That's what I'm about.
Yeah, no, and I mean, you're 100% right. There's no growth as people without discussion and without civil discourse with disagreements. And I've posted this on Facebook before, like when some hot button issues come up. Like one thing that sticks out to me, like happened one time, was when the officer involved shooting in Charlotte, the big one. I cannot remember the gentleman's name. Gosh, right on the tip of my tongue. But anyway, there was an officer involved shooting. And so of course, there were people angry on both sides. And I get on Facebook and it's like, nobody's having a conversation about anything. Like, you're not solving any problems. No matter what the problem is, you're not solving any problems.
Right.
Everybody's just either complaining or comment on somebody else's opinion that they're wrong, and then it goes back and forth, and it's an argument, and it happens all the time. And Facebook, realistically, should be the greatest communication tool that ever existed, but it's not. I argue, and I'm on it. I'm on Instagram. I'll probably never get off of them, but it should be the greatest communication tool ever. You should be able to talk, share ideas. It should be pushing people forward with people being able to interact literally around the world, except China. I mean, but you don't. But people don't. There's not any. And for the people that are like, oh, I have genuine discussions on there, fantastic. You're far outshined by 99% of the people on there.
Yeah. And, you know, for me, like, I really don't do much on my personal page. I throw out a couple things every now and then. But you know how I communicate? I go find the things that I'm very interested in and I involve myself in those, wherever it may be. I have, in fact, one gentleman that's running for the Senate in Georgia, not for the Senate in Georgia, but actually the U.S. Senate. Shane Hazel, he and I were in the Marines together. We're in the same platoon. He's the Libertarian Party candidate in Georgia. Go check him out. We're going to have him on. And these are like some things that we want to talk about, but I'll involve myself in those discussions, follow those things. I'll also go follow things that I'm not necessarily, hey, that's just not, I don't agree with that, but I'll go on those pages too. So I go kind of roam around and do that and get in discussions and trying to involve myself that way off of my personal page, because my personal page, I don't want it to be this big giant argument. That's not the point of it. It's kind of like, hey, I get to see what's going on in your life. Hopefully it's positive, and maybe I show a little bit of mine and stuff. But you know, going back to Land and Water Conservation Fund here, guys. You know what? You should research this. I think we've talked about this 3 or 4 times, and this is episode 15. So this is something that absolutely is important to Chuck and myself, but you really should go out there and educate yourself on this. And, you know, if this is something that you feel is valid, get behind it, write your congressman, your congresswoman, write your senator, get out there as far as your opinion. If you don't think it's that great of a thing, but you know, I'll say this too, on both sides of the coin, you need to put out there the why. You can't just say, hey, we need to fund this, or we need to defund this, however what it is. You need to put the why out there. And you know, is there another solution? Because we do need to take care of the national parks. We do need to, you know, find opportunities to grow parks in other communities and stuff. And there are outlets for that, privately. Absolutely. Right. Nonprofits, etc. Well, maybe put some of that stuff in there. Maybe you've had success with that, but you just being angry because your side's choosing one way or the other solves nothing.
Yeah. Oh no, man, I fully expect, and this is the cynic in me, I fully expect the Democratic Party to vehemently oppose this. It's going to blow my mind, but that's the cynic in me. But realistically, what you said, that perfectly sums it up. I mean, this is beyond like public land. This is to the betterment of the public. And don't forget, it's not tax dollars. It's not a hindrance to a corporation. It's just a tax that we all have to pay. They have to pay these royalties on these oil leases for offshore drilling. So the money comes back to benefit the entire United States, every single county. This isn't a misuse of your tax dollars by any means. So, but seriously, like I said, form your own opinion. If you totally disagree with it, I'm cool with that. But just don't make the stuff partisan. Like, don't use it as a weapon. You're weaponizing a piece of legislation. Not you. Donald Trump is with that tweet. That was how I felt. At the end of the day, if it all goes through, I don't give a hill of beans. Personally, I don't care who did it, who does it, who signed off on it, who tweeted about it, who rented a banner, fly it around the sun, for all I care. Doesn't matter as long as it gets accomplished.
Absolutely. Yeah, Chuck, you know, thanks for bringing us on, man. I appreciate it. I know we could probably talk the rest of the show on it, but I promise you we'll probably talk about it again.
Yep.
The Red Warren badge says you're equipped to handle anything, ready to conquer any challenge that may come your way. That badge has stood for off-road excellence for more than 70 years. During that time, we haven't stopped innovating or striving for perfection. Be ready. Be prepared. Go Warren.
When you hear the calls, you know we have a report from the field. And this week, because Chuck and I feel like in a good conversation mood, we are going to talk about scouting. You know, what is it and why do we do it? So, Chuck, what is scouting, man?
Well, I hope the name implies what it is, but essentially it's getting out in the field and you're looking for the sign of a specific game animal that you're hunting or looking to take pictures of, whatever. And typically it's done outside of the season, prior to going in. And by sign, whether for deer, for example, deer scrape trees. They, with their antlers, call them rubs. They make scrapes on the ground. Typically these are like community areas where multiple deer are coming in and checking these scrapes. It's a good indicator once you can kind of determine how fresh they are with a little bit of experience. Are deer here? Are they deer have been here? Are they still here? Etc. Turkeys, a lot of scratchings. Turkeys give away where they're feeding at. If you find a tree they've been roosting in, there's sign around the tree where they've been defecating on the ground. Just different ways. Squirrels get up on logs, eat a bunch of nuts. So that's and so the shells are left there in the holes. So that's essentially what you're doing. You're walking through the woods and you're trying to find the sign of animals and their presence in those areas. Because whether it's deer, turkey, squirrels, animals concentrate in areas. They have preferences over certain places. It's the old adage I always heard, and I know this is fishing related, but 80% of fish are in 20% of the water in a lake. And animals are realistically, like deer, especially, they're no different. So that's why scouting is so important. It really is. I mean, it's what success hinges on, like consistent success hinges on scouting.
Yeah, you just can't walk up there and go, I'll put my deer stand there. I mean, you might find some luck,
right? But
scouting is going to help you become more successful. So I went scouting today, man.
Nice.
I went out to Fort Bragg. Remember, I think it was last show I mentioned, hey, I hope my buddy, shows me some areas he went last year, and he has some gobbles. So we walked all through those areas, the piece of ground at Fort Bragg that he'll be hunting probably. And I might go out there. We'll see. I don't necessarily want to, go take his area, but definitely learned some things I didn't even think about. When we're out there too, about, we wouldn't see a lot of signs as far as the turkey. We did look at a lot of old trees, with branches we felt they would roost on and see if we could find some droppings or something like that. The one thing he mentions is as it's going to start warming up, you're going to see a lot more scratching, because the bugs just aren't there right now because it's cold out here. So he says, right when it starts warming up and you can come back out here. And so he showed me a whole bunch of areas, and I was real appreciative of that. And I definitely know that I feel success is out here, man. I just feel it. And I could tell you, like going out when I was sharing with you, from the deer hunting this last season. I mean, I learned so much just going out there and walking the ground. Even if I was on a hunt and I'm thinking, okay, I'm not getting any action, I just switched to scouting immediately. I said, well, I don't see the things. I look at the time. I'm like, well, I'm just going to go ahead and start scouting and possibly come back out here another week or weekend. So I really appreciate that. And on top of it, it gets you outdoors. And I don't think there's ever been a time I've been out scouting I didn't learn something. Right. That's the other part of it. Because the terrain changes, paths might change, the vegetation changes. Like out here where they do land management, they might clear this one section or they might plow this section. This area, they burn down, whatever the case may be. So the terrain changes. And that's something that we definitely learned today, especially with these large open fields and stuff.
Well, and that's a great point to bring up when you talk about terrain and stuff. So like you may, and this will be something that really comes with experience. If you're a new hunter getting out into the woods, like you'll get to an area and you can go, let's say, for example, it's, I don't know, February, March, you can still see good. You can pick out some trees, but the rub trees, for example, on a deer, they're starting to fade out. They're not as bright. When a deer first rubs a tree and he rubs that bark off, that thing sticks out. The brighter it is, the fresher it is, essentially. But so say you don't find any sign, but you'll be able to identify areas that potentially There's no guarantee. There's a whole bunch of areas that look good, and then at the end of the day, they end up not being good. But you'll be able to identify like little pockets, so you can go back and check those pockets to where you feel like they should be moving in at certain times of the year when they're making their rounds during the rut, or their feeding sources. Like you said, when properties are managed, they're feeding in the woods. They've got a lot of greenery. They're going out into the fields late in the evening. Fall rolls around, crops get harvested. Some of that browse starts dying back, where they're going to start transitioning to hardwoods. Well, maybe that's not all in the same area. Maybe they got to go somewhere else to get to those hardwoods to eat that mass, those acorns that are falling down. So that's another thing to really look at when you're scouting, is those food sources. Your buddy brought up a great point with the turkeys. The more it warms up, the more scratching you're going to see, because they're really going to be hitting those bugs hard. Another good thing about turkeys, not just necessarily for like turkey sign, but scout burn areas. Turkeys like areas that have been recently burned. This is because it knocks down the undergrowth. It promotes new growth. It gets some litter on the ground. There's more bugs in there. The greenery's coming back. Turkeys just like burns. And that's something that I key in on in a couple places that I know is always going to have some fresh burns on it. I go check those areas. The turkeys are typically coming through there, and another thing about turkeys, when it's in the springtime, they like open areas because a gobbler wants to be seen.
Right.
When he's coming to calls, he's coming to the hen. He essentially wants to get close enough to go, okay, I know she's right here. She should be able to see me. I'm going to start putting on my show. So that's another thing about turkeys. They want those open areas to show off, to peacock, if you will.
Right. Yeah, they're crafty little creatures.
Yeah.
One thing too, my friend was sharing too, was about you get that, because he had a gobbler come up and it just kind of stopped, and he said, what I should have did is I should have picked up and moved about 50 yards back and then do another call.
Yep.
And stuff. And cause he was telling me a couple things. So yeah, it was a lot of good knowledge he was passing on to me. And, I was really appreciative of it. And, I tell you some of the things you just shared right now, like the area we're in, man, you would have loved to see it, Chuck.
Yeah.
I think it is some prime real estate, that's going to
awesome.
be out there. So, but, what about that one place that you and I hunted, that one field I really felt like that was a pretty good spot.
Where we ended up, somebody can kill a turkey out of that field. Turkeys are there. Turkeys are probably coming there. And we weren't there at like a peak week necessarily. We did hear a bird gobble down there. My buddies ended up getting on that bird. The bird just wasn't responding to calls, had no interest in coming in. We moved on that field that you're talking about. I would imagine that any given morning, there are hens in that field, and that time of the year, there are going to be gobblers with them.
That's what I felt. I felt we were just there too late.
Yep, a little bit too late. It wasn't the best conditions. It was.
That storm came through. Yeah.
It was. But at the same time, I think if we would have been on that field that morning, like right when the sun come up, we'd have had a really good shot. Granted, when the sun came up, we had birds gobbling, but. I like fields. I like timber too. If I know a bird's going to come through it, I'm kind of reluctant on timber. Realistically, a lot of times, I've killed birds in both. Typically, though, when I kill a bird in the woods, he's adjacent to a field, so it's one of those deals. But I have been in spots. There's a spot up in the mountains on some public land. I just haven't got back up there and hunted it yet. It's in the middle of the woods, but it falls down in a little holler and flattens out, and it's as open as can be. And I'd bet any amount of money in the world that turkeys come in there regularly.
Right.
It's an intersection. It's a spot to where I feel like they would be. And I guess, and back to you mentioning the calling and moving back, I'm going to tell you, the silence kills more turkeys than any call
he mentioned
ever
that
did.
because they're all curious. I'm gonna get up there like, hey, where's my girl at? Like, yeah,
right. Call a couple times if it's and it's kind of something you got to figure out. Like, I don't call it every turkey anymore like I used to. Used to be a bird gobbled, and it was just because I wanted to hear it gobble, and I thought that's what you did. But you kind of figure it out, and like, is that bird killable? Might that bird be killable, or is there no use? And a lot of times it ends up being there's no use. But when one is ready to come in, you just know. A lot of times when he gobbles, it's different. But I'll call if a bird's responding, he doesn't get much more out of me because he's going to come looking.
Right.
If you're calling back to him as a hen, the way nature works, he's like, oh, she's coming to me. And so, yes, silence kills a lot of birds. The strategy about moving back, that's a real good one, especially if you've got two hunters. Put the guy with the gun out front, call her in the back a little bit. And then that way he's not keyed in on the person with the gun. They're looking at somebody else. But, I mean, I know that's a little bit beyond scouting, but.
Yeah, no, I think the kind of what we're leading to is like, I feel you just gain so much more confidence going into that hunt too. Like you have a plan. I mean, that's it. I mean, I've walked out there blind and say, I'm just going to figure it out as I go. But going in there with the plan, going in there knowing, hey, I know what's already over there. I got, depending on what you're hunting, the terrain, we've got hardwood or not. So you kind of already have a grasp of because really it comes down to this. Once you're out on the hunt, you are on the clock. You literally are. That's one thing, I'm on the clock. And depending on the species you're going after, depending on the rules, if, kind of like both those, like on Fort Bragg, what he showed me today says pretty much you don't get it by 9, you're probably not going to get one. These are hard birds. Like, they are tough. So
realistically at 8:30, I'm taking a nap. 8:30, 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting till 10:30. If I can get a bird to gobble between 10 and 1, that bird's dead.
Yeah, I heard the kind of like that magic hour. It's like that 10 and 2 when they start getting all frisky.
That's a dead bird.
Yeah, 10
if
and
he's
2.
Gobbling, as long as he doesn't find a hen on the way to you or somebody else call him in, because he is looking at that point in time. But yeah, no, you have to familiarize yourself with the area. You got to think hunting, and that's one of the things that makes it so challenging. You're going up against an animal that knows every stitch of land that he walks on like the back of his hand. And the animal is never anywhere on accident. There's a purpose. And they know where they are. They're not lost.
Food and survival. And procreation.
Yeah. So the more familiar you are with an area just in general, whether you know the sign or not, will help you out. But I mean, and I'll be the first one to admit, my last 2 seasons, my success rate has been a factor of not my hunting, because I've been hunting hard. I've been in the woods a lot, but I've not been doing a lot of scouting. And I've been trying to hunt one deer in particular for the past 2 seasons, but I've been putting in any deer effort. I haven't, so what I'm saying is I should be happy with shooting any decent deer, because I'm not going out and trying to find that one deer that I know's there, but I'm not putting the studying in to figure him out. And I'll fully admit it, and I'm well aware of it. I just spend my time doing other stuff and just haven't been doing it like I should. But it's if I was to focus a little bit more from, let's say, June or July, and these deer I'm talking about are on private land, so I'm not putting in a ton of time. I know what they're going to do. I've kind of got somewhat of a semblance of a pattern down. It's just I haven't put all the pieces together. But if I was to spend, like, let's say June, July, or July, August, and the first part of September trying to put a little bit more effort into it, I'm convinced that the deer would already be dead.
Right.
I mean, or at least I would have laid eyes on him and had an opportunity. Let's put it that way. I'm not going to make a guarantee on the kill, because it is a wild animal, but I would have had some type of interaction with the deer. Instead of going in and essentially like, oh, no, he's come through here, come through there, whatever, and I'm guessing it stands, and I'm playing the wind a little bit, but there's no real like intricate strategy to going in. And that's one thing I'm going to try to do this year, is I'm going to try to formulate the plan and have an actual, like, legitimate plan instead of something that resembles a plan, if that makes sense.
Oh, it makes sense. So if we're going to talk about, like, just kind of summarize scouting, I look at it this way. So with scouting, you need to know the species. So you need to study the species, understand how it does what it does, why it does it, etc. Type of environment it likes to, be in. And then you probably want to get orientation of that environment, maybe a map study, maybe an app that's on your, electronic device, your tablet, your phone. Maybe you want to get, no kidding, an actual paper map. But whatever the case may be, but you probably should do a map study. Then you want to walk the terrain, kind of get an understanding of that. Yep. And then based off that, and when I'm talking like this, I'm talking like this is not a guided hunt. This is probably public land. This isn't, a little extra bumpers that are in there. This is just you going out into the wild, if you will, and hunting. So you formulate a plan, and then you execute that plan. And part of knowing the animal, you understand what weather conditions are going to be like. You understand, the hours, what it's going to be doing at what particular hours, all that. So all those are a factor, and that is to help you hopefully to become successful. But even then, you may not be.
Yeah. No, I think that summary right there, that was perfect, really. I mean, and beyond knowing like kind of the habits of the animal, you need to know like what you're looking for. And in terms of the sign, the tracks, the trails, what does it look like? It may be a good idea to kind of figure out what other animals are in the area. So if you do see some sign like a trail and you're not sure, you could potentially you could cross that trail off the list because it may be from a rabbit. Or if you're in Alabama, it's probably going to be a freaking armadillo. I mean, they are everywhere. So so to kind of like, it's because it's not an exact science. At the end of the day, you're making an educated guess on the information that you've got. So, but to familiarize yourself with as much information as you can before you get out into the woods, it will make it a lot easier. And I do want to recommend, like, there are tons and tons of videos on YouTube with regards to scouting. I recommend look up the Hunting Public. Those guys scout really well. They kill good deer, but they scout well. They explain themselves well. They have a podcast. They do a lot of explaining. But there are multiple folks that you could look into that have essentially they've dedicated their lives to getting information out about hunting strategies that you can find on YouTube to familiarize yourself, and then you can go out and apply it. And you're going to go into an area like, say, for me, I like scouting ridges with some type of habitat breakup. I really look for clumps of pines on top of ridges on ridge points, and I'll go hit those. I may have to walk through 4 or 5 of them before I find buck sign, before I find what I'm looking for. So it's not going to be in every area. But at the same time, I'm also, like, essentially I am running from one ridge to the next ridge because that's what I'm going to look at, because that's where the concentrated sign's going to be. So I'm not wasting all my time in between. So yeah, YouTube's a super valuable resource to teach you how to read maps, teach you what you're looking for on maps, teach you what kind of cover you're looking for, teach you what kind of sign you're looking for, how to put it all together, the places where you can expect to see that concentration of sign. So I really encourage, if you want some more information, definitely check out YouTube for your tutorials on how to scout.
Right on, Chuck, and we'll make sure to have the Hunting Public in the show notes.
We'd like to feature your successes and outdoor adventures, so shoot the pics over to us with a brief story. Route16.com and select contact. That's ROOTONESIX.com and select contact.
On target.
Welcome to our On Target segment, where you receive the inside scoop on brands, products, and training that can help you step up your hunt and range game. This week, Ron from Ryker USA shares with us some knowledge and use for pepper fog, spray, and gel. Get the tissues out.
What's up, everybody? It's Ron Holmes with Ryker USA, coming to you on the Route 16 Grind podcast with your practical tactical tip of the week. This week, we're going to talk about pepper fog, pepper foam, pepper spray, and pepper gel. So pepper fog is also commonly known as bear mace or bear spray, and it comes out in a big fog, a big mist to cover a large area. I don't think it has the direct impact as far as the reach capabilities. I think it's like 10 to 15 feet is what Bear Fog can hit. But Bear Fog is very similar to pepper spray, as in there's a good chance if you shot this in the wind or on a rainy day, it's going to come back on you or it's going to dissipate rapidly. Pepper foam, you've seen it used by a lot of law enforcement. It's just you spray it and it comes out in big foam and it just expands and goes everywhere, and it's a little comical when you actually see it being used when it's not on you. I just briefly mentioned pepper spray. Pepper spray comes out like, think about a spray paint can or some type of aerosol that an air freshener you spray out. That will, you run, like I said, on a windy day, there's a potential for you to, receive some of that blast. I use Sabre pepper gel. I keep a can in my vehicle. I actually keep a canister in all of our cars and in my EDC. You cannot travel through TSA with it, so make sure if it's in your everyday carry bag, you take it out. But the pepper gel is great, and the best way to explain this is to think about silly string. Silly string comes out aggressive, fast, and moves pretty far, and piles up on the intended target. Pepper gel does the same thing. They say it has about an 18-foot reach before you start to lose your point of aim, point of impact. I have found that when you spray the pepper gel on somebody, and their initial reaction is to reach up and wipe it off, and when they do this, it rubs it in more, further incapacitating them and giving you the tactical advantage to leave the area. If you concealed carry, or you're on that side of the fence where you're not comfortable or you don't like guns or you don't want to concealed carry, but you want to have a tool in your toolbox that you can use to protect yourself, pepper gel by Sabre, I think, is a great mitigator, a great option to have in your arsenal, in your pocket, in your purse, in your backpack, in your car. Multi-uses. I think it's great because it will give you the ability, depending on the size and the ferocity of the attacker, but it will give you the ability to create what I call the STD, speed, space, time, and distance. And that's all you need. You need a small window of opportunity to get you off the X, get you in your vehicle, get you back into a building, someplace safe, get your phone out, call 911, scream for help, whatever you got to do. But pepper gel is awesome. It's great. You could spray it direct pointing at somebody in the rain, and it's not going to dissipate the stream or the impact or the intent of the OC once it hits the skin. I have used it many times, and I have never had blowback from the pepper gel on me, whereas I have had that happen to me when I've used pepper sprays in the past. Just a little tip of what I do. I keep it in there. It's a great mitigator, and again, it's a good product. So, like I said, pepper gel, hands down for me, is the best, and I think it's something that you guys might want to incorporate into your EDC. Again, that's everyday carry for our non-shooter people out there. The other thing I will say, on a side note, for years in the Marines, we used to play the pepper spray game. And this is just like sidebar, kind of funny. And if you guys so choose to have office games or just try to play jokes on people, take a little bit of pepper spray or pepper gel, spray it into a face cloth, and then just start wiping down certain areas in the office. Like hit a space bar on someone's laptop or their desktop for work, and hit door handles and stuff like that. Something that they commonly touch, and then they're going to reach up and they're going to rub their face, and then they're going to get a little watery nose. Nothing major, but it's kind of fun, especially if you're the only one that knows it's going on. And yes, I've done this many times, but it's also been done to me many times. And it was actually done to me first, which is how I adapted to the pepper spray game lifestyle. So again, guys, this is Ron with Ryker USA. This week's practical tactical tip was about EDC and pepper gel, and like I said, I recommend the brand Sabre. So thank you guys, and thank you guys for supporting the Route 16 podcast to grind, and I will talk to you guys next week.
Ron mentioned that pepper spray game. I have to tell you about this, man. So when I was in the Marine Corps, I went through Marine Security Guard school, and you get maced and you get pepper sprayed. Well, the day they did mace, I had my wisdom teeth pulled, so I had open sores, so I didn't get maced. They literally made me carry a chair around so I could sit in. I felt like such a lame-o. And then the week that they did pepper spray, so you do half the class first, and the other half will do it. So you have a buddy to take care of you because you're all miserable. You just got pepper sprayed in the face and stuff. So I was second day. So the first day group went through, but a couple of guys had their retinas burned. And I think it's because the instructors had it too close to the eyeball, like 2 or 3 of these guys. So they just called it, hey, we have a bad batch. So I went through Marine Security Guard school without ever being maced or pepper sprayed. I don't know how many guys have done that before, but I'm pretty sure it's a very small category. But hey, do you carry pepper spray? Or is something maybe you carry in the field?
I've got a can of bear spray. I bought when we were in Utah that I carried out there just because realistically I was lazy and I didn't want to deal with TSA and a pistol.
Right.
But no, I mean, bears, for example, if you look at the research and the experts, and I don't know where they're getting all this data, so before anybody goes crazy and goes, there's no way I'm carrying pepper spray or bear spray instead of a pistol. They say that bear spray is most effective. The logic behind that is when a grizzly's bearing down on you and you're essentially ruining a pair of jockeys, it's difficult for most people to hold it together and to stay on target with a gun.
Right.
And so the bear spray is providing you with essentially a bigger projectile. And now with everything that was mentioned with regards to with him talking about the it blowing away and it blowing back on you, those are 100%, those are concerns. I guess the one downside to using it for protection against a bear is you have to essentially wait until it's either shoot him in the eyes or the next split second he grabs you. I mean, the bear has to be right on top of you is what research says. Me personally, I don't carry any. My wife, she's actually got pepper spray in her car. She carries a sidearm, but all through college, she carried, it's not pepper spray, but she carried wasp spray. But that was because you can carry wasp spray anywhere. It's not regulated, and it's highly effective. So yeah, no, I see its merits. I'm really interested in this gel. And I would be interested in terms of a defense, against, some form of an animal attack, just because it would obviously be highly effective on humans, but on an animal, what if I hit it in the nose, or what if I hit it like on the side of the face, or, just miss a little bit, and it's obviously not going to rub it in anymore. I doubt. I don't know I don't know enough about it to make any comments, but I would have to see like how quick would the impact be felt and hear some obviously anecdotal stories about it. But it's super interesting. But I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, if you play that rubbing pepper spray on the spacebar game at my office, somebody's getting fired. And
right.
It's probably me because I'm gonna kick your
Those
ass.
are the comments of Instructor One in Ryker USA.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's funny, man. I'm so glad he mentioned that, dude. That is kind of funny.
I get it. I know where he's coming from. I totally understand.
Use at your own risk. How about that?
The psyche and the mentality and the space where he's coming from. But yeah, no, it was. But that one right there, that was fantastic.
And so I reached out to Sabre today, actually, and so they gave us a link. And I also have a discount code. I already put it out to our Patreons and to some of our key supporters. And then what we're going to do is going to go ahead and just put that in the show notes, and we'll have it. So if you go to that link, and one cool thing too, Chuck, is because we're on a topic. So they also have personal alarms. So you could possibly carry one of these high pitch 120 dB alarms. So for the whole bear thing, you got to make noise, right? But what about one of these big alarms too? And it's a paper clip. It's not a paper clip, but it's a small clip, and it has a light on it that you could have.
Really?
And so they have a variety of tools. They have a 3-in-1 automotive tool, so it can break the glass, it can cut the seatbelt, and it's also the spray itself. And so I went out there today actually, and I bought one for my wife. And they also have like ones you can put in the house and stuff. So go check them out. We'll have them in the show notes as far as that link. Use that link. Use the promo code. You'll get 15% off.
For sure. Enjoy that code. That's awesome.
Hey, this is Nikki G. And Chuck, you mentioned the Linville area up in Pisgah Forest, which is pretty funny because I've got a couple of days off work coming up, and I was thinking about doing like a 2 or 3 day overland trip just through the Forestry Service roads of the Linville area. I've never really been up that way before, and so I wanted to check it out. And it's just coincidence, I guess. It's meant to be. So I'll let you guys know how my trip went, and I'll let you know if I run into Squatch while I'm up there. If I do, I'll get an interview with them. But I routinely, well, I can't say routinely, but a few times just head out in the Jeep and head up into the mountains with just a topo map and a compass and just drive around and see what you see. If you're on a road that gets too rough, just turn around and come back. I think everybody should do that at least once in your life. Just go out there and get lost. There's a whole world out there just waiting for you. But that's not why I'm calling. I'm calling because I got a very serious question. If a jogger is running at the speed of sound, could he still hear his iPod? All right, guys, you keep up the good work, and I'll chat at you later. Bye.
He's throwing us for a loop there. He's all talking about, hey, go out there and adventure, and then he brings in that joke at the end there.
Yeah.
And of course, there was a Sasquatch thing in there.
Well, I guess before I tell him good luck and everything on his adventure in the Linville area. So the listeners don't know, but I don't hear the Nikki G phone calls until we're actually recording the podcast. So they get played as we're recording it. Some of the interviews and everything and the other segments that I'm not involved in, I do get to hear those ahead of time, the majority of the time. But with this, I do get to read a transcription of Nikki G's voicemail. But I always read it as he's saying it. Well, tonight I read ahead a little bit as he was talking about the road getting too rough and all, and everybody getting out and adventuring. I read ahead of the joke and almost ruined the whole voicemail. Because I was like, oh, man, he's like being really, really serious, all this. And I was like, oh, here we go.
I know it came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Crafty
but that was a good one. But no, yeah, Linville's fantastic. Get up there and catch you some trout in the wilderness area. It's get down to the river. It's been a while since I looked at the map up there, but I do believe there are some wild trout waters where you can potentially keep some. Right now, you can't fish in any of the hatchery supported waters. They're shut down until the beginning of April. But yeah, no, it's fantastic. Table Rock is an awesome spot to go check out. Ride up to it, parking area, walk around, hike up. Plenty of the Forest Service roads though. So
In the Rock, Mud and Dirt is brought to you by Warren Industries. At Warren, we pour our effort and our thirst for adventure into every product we make. You better believe American pride runs deep here in Clackamas, Oregon. Here, a small army of engineers, technicians, machinists, and assemblers design and refine Warren products, bringing them as close to perfection as possible. Their work is backed up by legendary quality control that doesn't just stand up to rigid Warren standards, it lives up to the toughest demands of the world's top vehicle manufacturers and military suppliers. How do we know? Because they've partnered with Warren for decades. This quest for peerless reliability, this Warren difference, will be around as long as Warren Industries is in business. At least another 70 years. Go prepared. Go Warren.
Welcome to the Rock, Mud, and Dirt, this segment where I talk about the brands, products, and events from the off-road world. This week, I'm going to share with you the wonderful time I had this past weekend at the Get Ugly Off-Road Swap Meet in Fayetteville, North Carolina. It was a cold day with a heavy breeze, but the sun was out, and some great folks came together to help support and raise money for Off-Road Outreach, an organization focused on providing support to homeless and at-risk veterans. The swap meet brought together some great clubs from Little Rampage Off-Road, Cape Fear Crawlers, Infidel Jeepers of NC, Carolina Trails Off-Road, Wicked Jeeps, Nightcrawler 4x4, and more. I also had a chance to catch up with the Route 16 crew members, Frank the Tank, G-Mags, and Fireman Frank. We also caught up with Cheryl from HerJeepLife.com. It might have been cold and windy, but it wasn't going to stop this group from meeting up and selling some parts. There were plenty of great deals to be had on tires, wheels, grills, bumpers, lights, exhausts, and various parts and accessories. Heck, I was able to sell an old decommissioned T10 parachute canopy top that I had from my Marine Corps days. Gina and the Get Ugly Off-Road team, with the help of many volunteers, made what was essentially a meetup into a community supporting event with an opportunity for many of us to clear out some of the space in our garages with parts and others that others could use. I hope to support more of these meetups/swap meets this year. I think they're a great idea. I did not get the exact figure of how much was raised for off-road outreach, but regardless of the amount, it will go to some great use. I love seeing those faces as I miss those conversations from the trail. Of course, how much I was talking about turkey hunting, go figure, I might have recruited some new hunters over the weekend. We shall see. This trail season, I hope to see these folks once again and meet up with some new ones. But truth must be told, though I might be hitting the trail, the mornings in April and May will belong to the field in the pursuit of a gobble.
Since 1989, Tuffy Security Products has been the industry leader in automotive security. Tuffy has a variety of vehicle-specific consoles, drawers, and lockboxes. Tuffy manufactures adventure-ready organization and security for your Jeep, truck, or SUV. Visit TuffyProducts.com and use special offer code GRIND to save 10% on your order.
Go Adventure! Welcome to the Go Adventuring segment. This is a segment we celebrate the people, groups, and organizations that bring positive outdoor adventures to you. This week we catch up with Sir William Goes from episode 7. He and his better half, Lady Christy, share with us an update on their RV adventuring journey.
What's happening? It's Sir William and
Christy. I don't have a cool nickname. I don't even think I had a nickname growing up as a kid.
No?
No, never.
Well, for those that don't know, Christy is my better half of 16 years. And when I say better half, she is all of that. Extremely better half. Anyway, this is our very first Go Adventuring segment. We're super stoked to be here. So we're going to do these little segments, and so that way they can keep up and the folks listening can keep up where we're at, what we're doing, and all that. So, okay. Brian, we appreciate you having us on. To kind of update everybody, we moved into the RV this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been stressful.
Been a little stressful. You know, I wouldn't say it's been stressful. It's just, it's been, it's a constant learning process. The very first thing that we've learned is that this is a busy lifestyle, which we said that we both agreed that
it would be busy.
It would be busy.
And hectic.
The plan is we're going to stay here for a bit. We've got to build Imogene up. Imogene, for those who don't know, is a 21-foot travel trailer that we've moved into. It's Christy and I and 2 dogs, and our plan is to just travel like a leaf wherever the world takes us to.
A leaf?
Yeah, just kind of blow along in the breeze.
Wind.
Yeah, and as long as it's not cold or extremely hot, we plan to be there. So we're looking forward to that. But we've got a little bit of work to do to Imogene first. So the number one thing we've got to do is we've got to get our own self-sustained power.
Yes.
And so our plan for that is I'm going to get one of these inverter, charger, converter, automatic switch things. I think that I've got a brand picked out, but if you guys want to help with that and tell me which one you think and why, if you've got the knowledge, I'm open to your suggestions. Hit me up at Sir William Goes. I'm on all the social medias as Sir William Goes. But yeah, so I've got to get one of those automatic transfer switch things. Then we've got to get batteries, and I'm thinking 3 batteries should be enough, I hope.
And then the panels and wiring and...
Yeah, and then we got to do it.
then you got to put it all together.
Yeah, that comes the other thing. So the thing that we're learning about RVs is if you're not a handyman, you're going to have to learn to be a handyman.
Figure it out quick. Stuff.
If you're living in one of
these,
if you're living in one of these, they are going to fall apart on you. It's just that's just what it is. To be completely honest with you, I would have rather have spent the same amount of money and built our own, but unfortunately, we just can't do that.
Well, yeah, banks don't want to lend money for you to go
piece together
something that you're going to live in full time as it travels down the road. They don't really like that. So we were kind of.
And we didn't have the money to front, all the costs because it is a significant cost.
It's expensive.
Even if we built it, it would be a significant cost, and we probably would have spent more trying to build something.
Because we would have chose better materials.
Better material, yeah. But anyhow, we've got to learn how to do that. The thing about these RVs and the reason that you have to be a handyman is because the RV repair places have like this extremely long wait time, and that's what we found out when we had something wrong. Luckily, I was able to fix it, and it was just some clamps that needed to be done. It was like a leak in the bath. Yeah, so it's.
And that's probably the scariest part for me is if substantial and it's not something that we can fix, and it takes months to get it fixed, and where are we going to stay while it gets fixed? There's just a whole nother set of worries and concerns with that and just being in a travel trailer in general, like the space
so far hasn't been an issue.
No, I think for me, you and two dogs, it's plenty of space. Going into it, I didn't think that it was going to be plenty of space, but now that we've been in it essentially almost 2 weeks kind of at this point, you just kind of figure out new places for things to go and your new routines and like getting ready for work in the morning. You can't do it in that tiny little bedroom. I have to do it literally in our living room, kitchen, bathroom.
Yeah, that's been a little bit of a struggle bus there, is just figuring out kind of where's the best place to set things, where's the best place to do things. Organization, stuff like that.
Every inch matters.
Everything. It's definitely going to be an adventure. What we're doing is we will be traveling across the United States. That is going to be a show in itself on the YouTube channel. And then we're going to be launching a web series that's going to be focused on off-roading, overlanding, all that good stuff. We're going to go to different parts of the U.S. and film various different aspects of the off-road and overland community and everything in between. I really want to focus on the rigs, the people, and the places. So we're really looking forward to it. I'm glad that we are staying here while we build up and kind of we have the ability to figure out everything that we need. Now, we are not full boondocking where we're set up at. We're set up on some family land, and we are what I called yesterday
mooch docking.
Yeah.
Mooch docking.
So we're basically plugged up with an extension cord to my cousin's house, which is my great-great-grandmother's old house here outside of Columbia, South Carolina. And we will be here at least for the month of March. And our plan is to leave next month. And I'm hoping that I can get the batteries, the inverter, charger, converter, transfer thingy, the whole off-grid setup. I'm hoping that I can get that done. We're going to power it with a generator at first, and then I'm going to add solar later on. So I'm looking forward to getting that done this month. And in the meantime, we're going to be doing all the figuring out of the routine stuff, which we're good at that. I mean, like when we did the Transamerica Trail, we figured that stuff out quick.
Well, the thing for me when we did the TAT, it's crazy because that was easier for me than this is. I'm not quite sure why, but going without power, water, what do you call it? Bricks and stones house? Or sticks and stones?
Sticks and bricks.
Or whatever yeah. So, putting up the tent every day, taking the tent down every day, and only worrying about me and you and our needs was just so much easier for me to adapt to, and I adapted to it extremely fast. I did a lot of camping as a child, and I've always been outdoors anyway. But now that we're in this, and we're responsible for me, you, and the dogs, and their care and their needs, and making sure they get out and stretch their legs, and
that's really the only worry of mine in the whole thing is the dogs, because that is a constant deal.
It is.
Especially since you can't run the AC because they've got to maintain a good temperature, and we are ultimately in the South. And what I'm finding the first obstacle is running these fans is relatively decent, but we're going to need some better fans. When you open up the windows, now, if you can't open up the windows, then that whole plan goes out the window.
Like today, pouring down rain.
Today was pouring down rain. By the way, windows. I'm pretty sure that we're going to just have to start kayaking to work here shortly because it has been raining so much. All right, well, that's an update from us. 1 week in, roughly, to the living in the RV. Just a couple days in this weekend to actually not having a house to sustain us. And, yeah. So far, so good. We're figuring it out. It's going to be a fun adventure. Follow us on the YouTube channel, Sir William Goes. Check us out on Instagram. I'm at Sir William Goes.
I'm changing my name. I don't want to say mine yet.
Okay.
I'm changing mine.
All right. Well, I'm at Sir William Goes. You'll see Christy in and around mine.
Eventually.
Shortly. You can also follow USA on Dirt. Check that out. There is plenty of stuff to come on that. So I'm getting super stoked about that. By the way, if you've got a special part around your area or a group that you like to go off-roading with or a really badass rig or all of the above, hit me up on social media. I'd love to come through. We'll film an episode of USA on Dirt with you and your buddies at your favorite place to off-road, overland, and camp. And I look forward to seeing you out there on the trail. Till next time. Peace!
Want to be on the show? Maybe share with us some interesting hunting, fishing, overlanding, wheeling, or adventuring news? Then give us a call at the Route 16 Grind hotline at 919-694-3356, and maybe you will be on our next show.
The Cup of Joe segment is brought to you by Seastate Coffee. Have you ever actually drank good coffee? Stop wasting your money on old, stale coffee from the store and make the switch to Seastate Coffee. Seastate Coffee is a United States Marine Corps veteran-owned and operated roastery, selling premium coffee that's roasted on order and delivered fresh to you. Order your coffee today at www.seastatecoffee.com.
What a great show.
It was, man. It was. I guess one thing we need to do is go back to episode 14, though.
Yeah, we you know what? I gotta throw this out there. So definitely want to mention how great it was to have Dead Man Off-Road on episode 14, and their product and the interview with Bryant there. Chuck and I got started talking about turkeys, and we just, like a little bit of this show, we just kind of go off course and it just takes over. But really appreciate Dead Man Off-Road. I really appreciate the promo code they have offered. It's been in our show notes. We'll go ahead and put in this show notes as well. If not, hit us up and we'll give it out to you. And then Instructor One, man, what's up? Ron coming up with great segment this week with the pepper gel. And last week he talked about the med kit and the importance of having that on you regardless of what you're doing throughout your day. Believe it or not, hey Chuck, people, I got hit up a lot about our listeners want more medical training information, what to carry, all that stuff. So I've researched it a little bit. It's such a big
deal, man.
Yeah, right.
If you're out and about, I mean, I don't go unless I'm hunting essentially right out my back door. Me and my wife, we don't go hiking, backpacking, vacation at all without taking our first aid kit. The one thing we don't have in it is a tourniquet. And I've been meaning to get one since we had tourniquet training recently at work. But no, the med kits are essential, and they don't have to be crazy complicated either. And it's a whole heck of a lot cheaper to build one. But yeah, no, the med kit and the first aid training info that Ron gave was spot on.
So I've gone to, like, obviously my Marine Corps days, ton of medical training. Specifically in the field that I was in. I mean, it was so important because it's just you and couple of guys out there in no man's land, and that's all you got. But outside of my military experience, it was a little bit, and I was like, I need to go get refreshed. I went to Wilderness First Aid. It's based off the Solo program, and I've hit up my wilderness first aid instructor to see if maybe he might want to do an interview and stuff. He's got a really busy schedule, but they train you to where you're in a situation literally out in the wilderness, whether you're hunting, whether you're hiking, climbing mountains, whatever your outdoor extreme activity may be, if you will. You're outside that golden hour of support where you won't get medical responders will not be able to get to you in that golden hour. So what do you do? And they work through all that. And it is phenomenal training. I really appreciate it as a 2-day, all day type of training, session. And I can tell you right now, I mean, I give it props, and hopefully I'll be able to bring him back on. If not, then I'll definitely point you in that direction, and we're going to definitely bring some people on. It's on the list, and I appreciate all the feedback we got from that. So thank you, Ron, from Ryker USA. And yeah, thanks for this week's segment. Look forward to the more information you provide us. And then what's up, man? Catching up with Sir William, man, and his Lady Christie. That's what we're going to call you. We're going to call you Lady Christie until you change your name to something that is approved by you. But so it was great to hear about that. I'm excited about their travels.
I'm jealous.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Good for him.
I do. I want to live out of a camper, get rid of everything, live tiny, nice, compact, but man, it would be so difficult at the same time, to do it, but it would be so awesome to see those things. And I think everything that he's doing is fantastic.
I love the honesty of it too. Like you were just talking about how differently they literally are saying, hey, this ain't easy. It's not something you just, we'll go buy, an RV and just, that's it. Yeah.
Yep.
This is something you're thinking about. You definitely want to go follow Sir William and Lady Christie and, pick some notes. And I have, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, you do have to be a handyman too. When I first listened to it, he was talking about that. I was like, oh, he's already realizing it, because they make two kinds of campers that leak and campers that are going to leak.
Right. I talking to him from episode 7. He had no love for RVs. Like he's like, these things are expensive pieces of crap, man.
I mean, if you look at it, it's essentially a house that somebody's built, put on wheels for $25,000. So
right. Yeah, it's pretty good, but I'm looking forward to what he also. In fact, I'm gonna probably hit up my friend Brian from Carolina Trails Off Road and let him know he's down in Columbia, South Carolina. I know they're having a get together in Florence probably this weekend or something. Maybe they can link up. That's a great group. They got a lot of knowledge, and maybe can help him out as far as his electrical work that he's doing and point him in the right direction there. So we got some changes on the show coming up. Want to break that news?
Yeah, we do, man. As everybody knows, like I'm really like I don't shy away from being like head first into the conservation world, and I don't really want to beat around the bush, but I'm gonna have to take a step back from the show, and I don't want to say leaves the wrong word, but I'm gonna be stepping down as a weekly host. Next week's going to be my last episode in kind of a permanent position. I'm still going to be coming on in various capacities for different episodes, whether it's me, Brian, interviewing somebody, or me just as a guest with another guest, however you want to spin it. Maybe doing outdoor update segments intermittently and things like that. But realistically, like I told Brian last week, I don't have the time and the energy to put into this. I've taken on additional responsibilities with one of my organizations in particular, Gaston Paws, and I'm the president of that. And they deserve my time, and it's a local initiative that I'm really passionate about. And realistically, at the end of the day, it's not fair to Brian like I said, I literally can't. I don't have the energy nor the time to really spend doing anything extra on any other extra activities. My life is a schedule. If anything goes wrong, I have to schedule it. I have to schedule to help my grandparents out with stuff. I have to. My life's schedule. The long and short of it. And Brian has got such a big drive for this podcast and the Route 16 brand in general that I don't think it's fair for him to be expecting stuff from me that I know I can't fulfill. And realistically, it's one of those deals. I hate to do it. The show's really starting to hit its stride. I think we're starting to figure out exactly the avenue to go on and how to keep it interesting and how to have our conversations and still keep the segments in and everything. But it's one of those things. It's something I've got to do for me personally, for my wife, and just for my life in general. Just to kind of keep chugging along and kind of to stick with what I'm passionate about and to maximize my efforts in conservation with the little bit of extra time that I do have. I'm just going to scale back on a lot of things just in general that I do in extracurriculars and really focus on the ones that are extremely important. But Brian was extremely gracious when we had the conversation, as I expected him to be. But yeah, so anyway, next week's the last one for me as a full-time host, at least for a while. So
yeah, Chuck,
sorry,
I mean,
folks.
it's not easy,
appreciated
man.
It.
Yeah, it's not easy. And I know that wasn't easy for you. You know, you set a high bar. It's just the reality. We talked about a couple times, and you know, the show will go on, and we will see you again. We will miss your voice every week, but when you're able to come back on, you're always welcomed. And we know the knowledge that you will impart upon us will make us better, far as, you know, hunters, recruiters for the effort, conservationists, etc. You're out there committing your time and energy for that follow-on generation. And then for people like myself, I would not have taken on any of this stuff this last, 13, 14 months, whatever it's been, had it not been that moment that I met you at an off-road event of all things. And I said, hey, man, I want to go turkey hunting. You're like, I'll take you. It really is it. And so for you to be able to be more available to encourage others to get into hunting or to re-energize that for them, I'm all for it. I am all for it. And it would be selfish of me saying, no, you need. So I appreciate your time and energy. I enjoyed meeting your wife, and I know that won't be the last of us. We're definitely going turkey hunting still. I will hold you to that. But whenever we hear from you, absolutely, you're always welcome. And so that throws out too, if somebody's out there that might be interested in taking a little bit of this on. I've had a couple people already hit me up, but we'll see where it goes. I'm still going to be around and everything.
Besides the obvious of leaving the show and kind of leaving you hanging and whatnot.
You didn't leave me hanging, man. It's life.
Realistically, I get just as much out of like putting together the information because it's helped me be like that much more educated. Because you have to. I always felt like I had to be on the majority of the topics. I took the approach of I needed to be familiar enough with it to where and understand it enough to where I could explain things simply. So it caused me to do a lot more research than what I typically done, get a little bit deeper in things than what I normally did. And that's one thing that I've taken away from it. And that's something that I'm going to keep doing to try to get information out because I've enjoyed the part of getting the information out to people a lot. And that's why I do hate to walk away from it. But I think I don't know if I'm going to write just random blog post or what I'm going to do about things that pop up. Of course, still probably when things pop up, I'm going to be calling Brian, reaching out and being like, hey man, let me do an outdoor update. This came up. Let's talk about it. Let's get together on like a Saturday or something. I'm gonna be a little bit more flexible to kind of to come and go and be a little bit more fluid. So yeah, no, Brian, man, I appreciate it. It's tough when you first called me about this and I was like, I don't know, but your enthusiasm for it made it real simple. And like I said, you're in it for the long haul, and just being honest with everybody. I can't be, because I'm in other things for the long haul.
Yeah, right on, man. We're always here to support you, Chuck. Don't forget that. So anything we can do to help you and all the things you're going to be doing for your community, please reach out and let us know how we can help.
Thank you all for joining us. Remember, if you have an idea or maybe you would like to contribute to one of our segments, all you have to do is go to route16.com and select contact and let us know your idea. That's route16.com and select contact. ROOTONESIX.com.
Thanks for listening to the Route 16 Grind. We want to thank our amazing sponsors, Warren Industries, Tuffy Security Products, Sea State Coffee, and Route 16 Off-Road for their support. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and more. Just look for Route 16. That's ROOTONESIX. Or just go to route16.com. Until next week, plan smart, be safe, and as always, be prepared.
You might want to scout your keyboard before you touch it.
Yeah!